Yeah. Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. It is 11:30 on Wednesday, January the 3rd, 2024. Welcome from wherever you are, whatever you're doing. I hope you're having a great day. I'm Coach Yvette Jett, and we have
I am Coach Shayna DuPont. How are you all?
Hallelujah. Awesome,
So,
awesome.
Matt, we are in a brand new year.
We are, and you know what I thought about? I'm like, we should have had this session about vision and strategies and just how to create goals for the year. But we could do
Hey,
that. We could do
why
that.
don't we can pivot?
We can, but it's already it's already
You're already prepared.
so yeah, so just not to confuse the audience,
I
we
got
can
you.
pivot to that next week, most
Next
definitely. We
week.
can do an extra section. I mean, we can always do more than one.
Yeah,
So
that
we
is
can do
true. We should
audio.
not have a limited mentality, right? We can always do more than
Exactly.
one. We don't have to just do it once a
E-
week if we have extra.
Exactly. So yeah, we can have that as another conversation, maybe just like a LinkedIn audio or something like that.
Yeah, that would
Um,
be nice.
but today we're talking about mastering leadership communication strategies for impactful leadership. And it's funny, Shayna, because I wrote a paper about effective communication and what that looks like for leaders and what that looks like for teams and the methods to use for that. So this is a perfect topic for
That's
that. So
awesome.
yeah, so do you want to kick us off?
I mean, I can. I first off want to apologize that I have a baby on board here.
No
Um,
worries.
but that being said, I mean, communication I just think is so key. It's the reason why companies can fail. It's the reason why institutions can go south. It's also, a huge reason why families and marriages have a lot of issues. So effective communication is so huge in any and all relationships that we have on a day-to-day basis. And really being able to effectively communicate with others is really going to kind of be like a long pathway to our future success.
Oh,
Um, so I would definitely like to help people today. Just let's give them some like tips and tricks on the importance of it and how to be better at communicating with each other.
I like that. I like that, Shayna. And it's funny that you said tips and tricks. So in the paper that I wrote about effective communication, I am a certified agile coach, and I'm also a certified scrum master. And as a scrum master, we help teams grow and build and collaborate together, which is a big part of what effective communication looks like. And a
Mhm.
lot of times I found that teams don't have a framework by which they communicate. And so leaders are just grabbing at people, right? Just like, oh, tell me this, tell me that, tell me this. And there's no point where people just can say, okay, this is what I have going on, this is what I'm doing, and this is how I'm doing it. So in the agile framework, and this is what I teach, and this is how I've directed teams for years, is having it where you have dedicated time to communicate. So in the Scrum framework, there's a thing called the daily stand up, right? And I love it. And leaders, if you're not using a daily stand up, you need to start, because it is one of the easiest ways that you can communicate with one another effectively. Three questions you ask: what are you doing today? What did you do yesterday? And are there any risks or impediments, right? So that's just one I like to add, then what you're doing tomorrow. So that could be four. But keeping it to those simple questions will help everyone communicate. And honestly, it helps everyone share what's going on and what needs to be done. So that's my tip, and that's my
That's your tip, and I am so glad that you said that because there is I think a lot of things that are lost in translation a lot of the times, and I think that it makes sense to kind of keep it simple, and that's kind of I guess what that framework that you just kind of laid out does. Keep it to a couple of questions, keep it kind of direct, keep it short. I think sometimes when we're trying to do longer meetings to kind of communicate something that could be said a little more direct, things start to get lost, and people you kind of leave things at that point to people's perspectives and interpretations. So keeping it nice and simple, just like you said, have those questions already lined up where everyone's got their answers ready. And for me, a huge part of communication is actually not talking and listening. Listen to the other person so that you can respond from a place of understanding as opposed to just responding,
I
right?
like that. And you know what? That just leads to how do you do it effectively? And to your point, right? That meeting that I just talked about, which is the daily stand up, is only 15 minutes. The daily stand up is so short and brief, and you don't go over the 15 minutes. And for me as a facilitator, I make sure that my daily stand ups don't go over 15 minutes unless it's something critical that we have to discuss and talk about, then maybe it might go over. Another thing where you're saying listen is a retrospective, right? There's two ways you could do this. In the Army, it was called an AAR, after action review. In Agile, it's called a retrospective. So, like, what did we do? What went well? What could we do better? What ideas do you have? And that gives an opportunity for everyone to share their thoughts and opinions and ideas. And I found, and like that one usually is an hour. You can make it shorter or longer, whatever you like to do. But it's another opportunity for effective communication and
Yes.
creating that space, just creating that space and opportunity for everyone to talk equally. Because studies show that teams that are able to speak effectively and speak the same amount of time have a higher degree of psychological safety and have a higher degree of team collaboration. I don't know about you, Shane. Have you ever been in one of those meetings where only one person is speaking or
Yes.
no one is speaking? It's like,
Yes.
anyone going to say anything?
Yes.
So
But
tell us.
I think what happens there is people will start tuning out if it becomes a little too long-winded. So then
Mhm.
there's that could be a reason why a lot of those meetings will go where no one's talking. Um, People just aren't interested in the information,
Yeah.
or they just don't feel safe enough to really
Mhm.
contribute to the meeting. And I think that's a huge downfall. That to me is the biggest problem. If your team does not feel like they can or should contribute
Mm.
to a meeting, then I think that's definitely kind of a key element that you need to look at on how am I leading, right? How am I leading? And does my team feel safe to communicate what they need to, or ideas or innovations or different things that may be going on that I need to know about?
Mm.
Uh, so that's important too. So there's so many key factors to effective communication, right? So
You
many
know
things that it
what?
could be.
And I think one of the key factors to effective communication is individuals taking responsibility for their communication. Communication can be, of course, one way, two way. You have the receiver, you have feedback, but at some point, it's not just on the leader, right? It is on the receiver as well. That you, even though you're receiving information, are you giving that back, right? And I know some people say, "Well, I don't communicate well," but are we trying to? So
But see, that kind of bothers me too. When you say, those are like the people that say, I'm not a morning person. Well, what do you
Mhm.
mean? But if you have to do your job effectively, then you better start telling yourself that you are an effective communicator.
Mm.
So here we go back to mindset, right? So that mindset needs to be that I am safe to communicate. Whether people listen or not, I am going to voice my opinions and let them fall where they may, right? I am an effective communicator. It's all of those mindset shifts that people need to start having, especially in institutions where there's not a fear factor. And
Mhm.
even if there's an intimidation a little bit, I mean, you still have to be able to tell yourself that you can't control other people, but you're going to still take responsibility. You're still going to do what you need to do.
Exactly. And I think that's a part of being professional, right? What part do you play in the success of the team?
Yes.
Because a lot of times, because I like sports, so there we go to sports. And
Yes.
I'm not going to get all deep into some people that I think don't contribute to the team, right? I've seen players that don't contribute to the team when they should. I will never forget, Shayna. Um, okay, it was James Harden. I'll just put out his name. It was James Harden. He was, I want to say, with the 76ers. And it was a critical moment in the game. And his game is amazing. He has amazing, phenomenal game, right? He's a baller. But I promise you, Shayna, he shut down on the team. On the team, he shut down. And Joel Embiid was carrying that team on his whole back by himself. And mind you, Joel is the leader of the team, but when you have your teammates that don't contribute, what are you to do, right? Like
Exactly.
he can only say so much to him on the sidelines without crossing the line. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So sometimes I think part of effective communication is having the conversation with those that don't communicate effectively, right? Or don't communicate at all, right? And
Yes.
what does that look like? That's real, right? That's I think that's just being real with the situation, with the scenario. What do you think?
I think that, communicating with the people that are not contributing, in a nice way, you don't have to be, rude about it whatsoever, but to be able to have those conversations. And then, what I said earlier, just if they receive it, great. If they can view you as a leader or a role model for what effective communication is, that's key. And if they choose not to do anything with it, there's nothing you can really do. But at that point, I feel like you have gone above and beyond. You've done your job and you have kind of called out to the person that could be causing the team to go into a downward spiral. You've at least brought attention to it. Because it might be that that person isn't even aware, right? So some people are just they're just naturally shy. They
Yeah.
will not be the ones that are going to speak out. They're not going to be the ones with their hands up first. And sometimes when you call attention to that, they don't even realize they're doing it. And now it'll bring it into their awareness so that now at meetings they might think to try or might
Yeah.
kind of push themselves forward or they might not. But at that point, I think it's very important for you to say what needs to be said, especially to those people that could and are potentially bringing down your team.
Exactly. And I think that where the leader has to communicate, right? When we're looking at effective communication from the leadership standpoint, what does that look like? And are we as leaders saying, these are my expectations? And honestly, Shayna, another point is to also support those that are in supporting leadership roles, right? As leaders, I think it's critical for leaders to set that expectation of what they desire, especially when it comes to communication,
Yes,
and then filter that down to others that support the leader. And the leader can honestly be honest. Like you say, it doesn't have to be rude, right? It doesn't have to be unkind, but they can say, I need you to support my leader. I never forget. A leader said, and they were a military leader, they were really amazing. And they always made sure that those that were under them, that were in charge of other subordinates and other team members, understood that this leader represents me when I'm not around. And that just gives more definition to what the expectation is. That even though you're not speaking or dealing directly with me, because sometimes you do have to, in order to have effective communication, you have to delegate those responsibilities. And
absolutely.
when you delegate, right? Because if you have a tier or hierarchy, when you delegate to the other line of leaders, and then your team members understand that the expectation is to be respectful and communicate just as I would with that leader at the top. Oh my goodness.
Absolutely. Yes, and I'm going to flip it the other way, right? So if you are a supporting role to a leader, especially one that's pretty high up, that's when your listening skills and your ability to reciprocate information effectively is so critical. Because
Mm,
think of the telephone game, right? So when you're having that go down to supporting leaders and then continuing to trickle down to just kind of like your general population, if you will, or your hourly employees or what have you, you need to make sure that the same exact thing is coming from the top all the way down to the bottom. So super important to listen, very important to take notes. Like I'm a note person, so I know that if I need to just jot things down so that I can reciprocate the information effectively, then that's what I have to do. And not being embarrassed to do that, or not just kind of taking it upon yourself to just say, well, I'll just kind of paraphrase it. So again, that just makes the communication much more effective.
I like that. So taking notes and being attentive. I think I
Mhm.
heard you said this earlier. Active listening, right? Having the intention that you are truly listening to what's going on, listening to the individuals, listening to their needs. And that's what leaders need to understand, that you listen for the unsaid. Part of effective communication is listening for what's not being said so that you can respond to what the true need is. Because a lot of times, especially in organizations or corporations in the corporate world, you don't want to discuss maybe how you're feeling, personal feelings, but body language, right? There's
Yes,
communication is through body language, tone, just the way people articulate themselves, or honestly, the way they don't say anything. That's another key as well.
absolutely. So definitely listen to understand. I
Mhm.
always tell people too, and you know, I deal with more family and marriage, but for couples especially, listen to understand, and
Mm,
don't be embarrassed or afraid to ask if you just truly don't understand what they mean or what their intention is in saying something. Ask so that you can clarify that, so
mm.
you have a full understanding of what is being said so that you may respond properly.
That's really good. You know what? And based on what you're saying in dealing with families and things of that nature, it goes down to building a relationship,
Yes,
building the relationship and building the trust. Because just as in a marriage, just as in family relationships, unless you have that trust with one another, unless you're able to really, really dig into what the other person is feeling, and you're building that relationship and communication, the communication will be stifled if you don't
absolutely.
build that relationship, you know? And this is my thing, Shan. I think we can touch on this next, is how to build that in a virtual environment, because a lot of people are remote, a lot of people are virtual. So the communication, they say the most effective communication is face to face.
Absolutely.
Well, if you're working remotely or you're working internationally or globally, you may not have those opportunities for face to face interaction.
So I know you just did a paper on communication. So as far as the virtual world, and you deal with more corporate, obviously, than I would. So what would be some tips for someone in kind of a corporate world that is remote? Kind of what are some game changing tips that you might have for them?
You know what? I'm glad, that's a really good question. You flipped that on me. I like the way you did that. That was a good flip.
I don't deal a lot with corporate, so I'm curious too
That
because
was a good
I
flip.
only I only have some people that I work with virtually,
Mhm.
and it is hard. So I'm more looking for myself. Just what are some tips to kind of get better communication virtually?
That is funny because I am virtual, right? I am the virtual queen. I love anything and everything virtual and remote. That's what I love, right? That's just where I do well, right? What I consider do well. And because, my business is going global, virtual is what I will have to do. And one thing I found that really changes the game, so for the team, is having your camera on. I don't say you have to have it on every day and you're bad if you don't, and just people get very, very touchy about that. With my teams, what I've done in the past is have them have it on one day a week, and usually I choose Wednesday because Monday people are tired, cranky, and probably irritable, right? I'm probably the only person in the world that likes Mondays.
I love Mondays.
I love, see, that's why
I
that's why
love Mondays.
I love Fridays. I'm like, oh my God, like I can't make it. But Mondays, like, oh my goodness, I'm in it. Let's go. I'm ready. So Mondays, not everyone's geared up and hyped up like we are, right? Tuesdays is kind of like, and we're still getting ramped up. But Wednesday, I like Wednesday because it's the middle of the week, and it's just that point that's perfect. That perfect balance. So I tell people, let's have on our cameras on Wednesday, right? Because we dress up, put on something appropriate, and just have on your camera for that one day. That's what I recommend. And then for leaders, to get to know their team members virtually, is having what I call empathy meetings or coffee chats. And in an empathy meeting, you're just asking, how can I help you? How can I be of service?
I
What are
love
your goals? Where do you see yourself? And this is the kicker, Shayna. Then this is what you ask as a leader. What can I do for you? Do you have any suggestions for me? And what that does is that bridges the gap where it's not a hierarchy. I'm above you, I'm looking down at you. But that in this moment, in this setting, we are equals. We are completely on the same playing field. And if you see something that I can improve, what is it? And then that just honestly, it sheds any shields or barriers that people may have. And that way the leader can get to know the individuals. And I've done those several times where I had team members I really didn't feel like I knew very well. And I felt like, I'm a likable person. Why aren't we connecting? But after those meetings, and you don't have to do them every month. I recommend maybe every 2 to 3 months based on the workflow. And when I tell you, Shana, that breaks down all barriers, especially virtually. And you have your camera on then, and you're just talking and just chit chatting, and you will find out some things you never knew before.
See,
So,
I love that. I love that so much because that's a lot of what I do with families is bridging that gap, right? And effectively communicating and getting rid of that I control you mentality, whether it's a husband wife or the parents with the children. And obviously, there's going to be situations where you have to be the authority figure, right? So we get that those situations are going to happen, but generally speaking, that
mm,
how can I help you statement. And
yeah,
this is whether you're talking to your husband or wife, like for my type of coaching anyway, or even your kids. How can I help you?
yeah,
Right? How can I help you deal with this better? How can I help you respond better? How can I help you regulate yourself so that you're not kind of having these large, kind of explosive type emotions?
exactly.
How can I help? And then, I mean, my kids do it to me all the time. I look for them to tell me things that I might not see. So,
Mm,
hey, what is it? Is there things that I could do better, even with dinner? And I don't know why people get so offended when someone either corrects them or tells them things that they can do better. I
okay.
look for that because I am constantly with a growth mindset. So I
Mm,
don't care if it just means that, hey, maybe I don't know, I put too much salt on the fish or something for dinner. Like, let me know. So that I'm just saying, like an example, there are moms that get really upset about this, and it will cause this massive to do
yeah.
in the home. And I'm like, I'm always looking to grow. So even if it's just my recipe that I can keep, getting better on, that's great. Or if there's something that I'm doing, I mean, whatever it is, maybe I have too much coffee in the morning, and hey, mom, like, you really should try to drink a tea. It's a little healthier. Like, I encourage them to tell me that because that,
Yeah.
as far as the family relationship, when you do that with your children, you're helping them to go into these leader roles or
Yeah.
even a supporting leader role where now they've gotten to practice
Mm,
doing that, where they can practice going to a leader and saying, hey, yes, I'd love to help you with this, or, this could be better, or maybe this could be communicated more effectively, or whatever the case may be. So for me, I'm really looking to help the kids in these families,
no,
looking to help them just kind of get experiences doing those life skills that we talk about in corporate America,
yeah.
right?
And it's funny you said that because I think one of the other things for life skills and just building that relationship is also finding the way to have fun, right? I'm
Yes.
I'm I'm not one of those moms. My stuff is terrible. Don't eat it, and let's find a recipe and
That's
let's.
not true. We ate your food. It was good. Okay. You're
But
lying.
hold on. Let me be clear with you, Shayna. That was not Yvette's recipe. I got that off of TikTok. One
I
of my
get recipes all the time online. That was still good.
so
It doesn't matter. It
yes,
came from
so
your hands out of your oven. It was your food.
I'm not an originator. So yeah, that was one of my friends on TikTok, and she's amazing. And she has a full cookbook. I'm gonna post it.
You
Post her
should.
channel because that's where I got that from because it was amazing.
It was
So
really
thank you,
good.
Tina. Oh my God, thank you. I'm one of those people. But I know when I was in one organization, the way they broke down those barriers of where you can talk with your leader and feel comfortable was through games. Like I love cornhole and I love Uno. So that breaks down the barriers where you're able to talk and communicate with one another without having the fear of retribution, right? And I think why I've seen you with your kids, right?
Hmm.
Just because you create that environment where they're able to talk and communicate that, right? And a lot of times people don't have that. I know for me, I like to I'm starting to get where Shane, I want to tell the good, the bad, and the ugly, like all of
Hmm.
it, because I was in an organization where I didn't want the feedback from the person. because I knew it was not coming from a point of helping Yvette grow, but how can I tear you down? How can I make
Yes.
you feel smaller than me? Because the truth is, people know great people when they see it. That's just the truth. People know potential when they see it. So I know for me in the past, I've gotten burned. And I'm speaking of one person in particular that just sticks out in my mind. I didn't want their feedback because it wasn't coming from a point of they were trying to help me. They were trying to help me grow. They would sit there next to me, Shayna, until I got off a phone call and wait to just tear it and wouldn't talk to me any other time. But if it was something
Picking
tearing
you
down,
apart.
and I,
That's terrible.
and I think that's a part we have to say too. Don't just talk to your people about bad things, right? But look for good opportunities to communicate. So when they see you coming, you build that relationship of the good and the bad so that they know that you're there for their good, right? Like leaders, we have to be there for the good of the people
Yes.
because there are so many people that are damaged because people misuse their their gateway to communicating with anyone, right? And leaders that are in power, they have that gateway of you got to listen to me because I'm the leader.
Right.
But we got to be careful with how we do that. And, even with family, right? I'm very cognizant of how I interact with my kiddos and what I say because I am the authority. Like, I am the authority. I'm the mama.
Yes.
But I don't want to hurt you either. I
I
don't
don't
want
want
to
to tear
damage
you
you
down,
for
I
your
think,
future.
right? So I think it's more intention based, right? So
Mm,
you really need to um, really check your intention, right?
yes.
Check your intention. Whether you're talking to someone at work or whether you're talking to your kids or whether it's your spouse or it could be your neighbor, it doesn't matter. What is your intention when you're saying something?
Mhm.
Right. And
Exactly.
if you're receiving the information and you know that the intention that this person have is ill-willed towards you, I'm going to go with maybe you shouldn't take the advice, and maybe if you would like to grow, then maybe we
Yes.
ask someone else what you could do better.
Exactly. And and I think that's part of the responsibility of the receiver,
Yes.
finding places, people, and opportunities that truly have your best interest at heart. What I realized, Shayna, is that the world is bigger and larger than we see and know. And what I do love, and I know people may or may not like this, what I'm loving about social media is that you get to see the world in a bigger and more expansive way. Like there's people I would have never ever connected with had I
Right.
only been able to see my border and my territory, right? Like what I
Amen.
could see like in my immediate. But what has been opened is that I'm realizing that the world is bigger and larger than what I ever thought or knew. And I think that if you're in a situation where the communication is not good towards you that you're receiving, find someone else, So
Yes, find another source.
find
Find
another
another
resource.
source. And I tell this to my kids all the time. And you want to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am certainly not even close to a perfect parent. There are times that I do hurt my kids unintentionally. Again, intention is not to do that, but there are times that I might be a little, harsh in my wording, maybe. Um, and that takes responsibility too, where you have to really just kind of zone in and apologize
Yeah.
and really just kind of fix it, right? So
Yeah.
if you are that leader and you're
Mm,
not going to do things perfectly, and there are going to be times that maybe you're just in a bad mood or something just doesn't come across right and you're rubbing someone the wrong way, you really got to step up and effectively communicate that you apologize, be honest and genuine about that,
yeah.
and then just kind of sit there and just say, hey, not my intention in doing this. How can I be better in the future? It was completely not your fault. And this is in those tear down moments, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a way to see the larger picture, and then find another source. I tell this to my kids when I've hurt them. If you need another source of information or inspiration, and I'm not giving it to you at that time, and I'm being that way, then I need you to go, whatever, you have your phones. I mean, go on YouTube, find something inspirational, or go into a book that you have inspirational books, or a quote or something in your room even, but find another source so that you don't get down on yourself. Because I think that's the worst thing you can do.
Oh, wow. And Shana, we have 20 seconds left.
No, every time, Yvette.
Every time.
She stayed sleeping though.
I know. Oh, baby's sleeping. Oh, beautiful. You gotta. She's getting so much information in her brain right now. It's
She is.
amazing. But everyone, thank you for joining us this week with Coach Bet and Coach Shana. As we always say when we end, is everyone needs a coach. If you're an educational leader, and if you're any type of leader, and you need a coach, and you need direction and guidance, I will be happy to help you and support you. Shana, closing.
Absolutely. Closing, I would be happy to help anyone that is looking to develop themselves personally, get stronger and deeper connections with their family or their spouses. And really, I'm the no excuse person, right? You want to start losing excuses and start to move your life forward. And to Yvette, to your point, kind of have that telescope vision on bringing the things that are far away closer to you. You definitely want to reach out to me. I specialize in family and marriage. My name is Shana DuPont, and I own Valkyrie Life Coaching. So you can find Yvette and I both on. Are you on TikTok as well?
I'm on all the social.
You're on everything. So I am not on TikTok. I'm just on Facebook and Instagram. But you can find us on social media. Let us know in the comments too. I think, Yvette, if we can get some people just to chat with us on what they want us to talk about.
That would be nice. I agree, most definitely. Well, everyone, have a great week. Whatever you do, live well and live strong, and know that 2024 is your year. And stay dedicated and communicate effectively. That's what we're here for, right?
Absolutely.
Communication. But I hope this has been impactful to your life, and I hope that you'll join us again next week. But until then, bye, friends, and take care. Bye.
Bye.